This conference will now be recorded.
Morning, everybody. We are here at the February meeting of the Enforcement Oversight Committee. Today's date is February 26, 2025. The time now is 9:03 a.m. and we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Stephanie, can you give us a quick roll call attendance?
I can. Jeff?
Here.
Lori?
Here.
And Annie?
Here.
Excellent. Quorum is verified. And staff in attendance today, we have myself, Chad Cook, we have Administrative Specialist Stephanie Perkins, and Investigator Dan Murphy. Let's see. First on the agenda is the approval of the December 3rd, 2024 Enforcement Oversight Committee meeting minutes. We did not have a January meeting, so that was our last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Oh,
Jeff and Annie with the second. Stephanie, let's just do a quick roll call for voting.
All right. Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
yes.
Annie?
Yes.
And the motion carries. The minutes are adopted. I'm going to go ahead and let Dan start us off today with his case.
Okay, very good. So I've got case 202457. Involved a single level condominium in a town called Welch's, which is out by Mount Hood, and it was located on a golf course. And I know you all received the packet ahead of time. So does anybody have any questions before we go into this? A very straightforward case. It wasn't too complex, not a lot of twists and turns. And if you're ready, we can go right into voting. Everybody ready? Okay. Record keeping rule.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Okay. Standard 1. Standards rule 11A.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Okay. Standards rule 13A3.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Okay. Standards rule 13A5.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Standards rule 14A.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Okay. Standard 2, real property appraisal reporting. Standards rule 21B.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
I have standards rule 22A10.5.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
And standards rule 22A10.13.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Just for clarity, that's 22A13. There's no 1013.
Yeah, you're right. Again,
Murph, did you state the case number before we started voting?
I did. Yeah,
Okay, well,
202457.
I'll take your word for it. Okay, I'll get out of the way again. Sorry.
Oregon Administrative Rule 161.025.00601.
Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
Annie?
Yes.
Oregon Revised Statute, ORS 674-140 2.
Jeff,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
and Annie.
Yes.
And I promise the next time I will get that citation correct.
No problem.
22A13, not A1013.
The X and the 3 throws you off. I know.
I
Roman
know.
numerals are weird.
Roman numerals are terrible, Dan.
I know. I can always know. I know what Super Bowl we're in. I can tell you that. But anyway, I do thank you so much, Lori and Annie and Jeff, for participating in this EOC. It's an integral part of our process, and we couldn't do it if you weren't all here. I really appreciate you.
You did a
Hey,
great
great
job on
job.
this one. Yeah. You always do.
I've got another case in the hopper right now. I'm just about finished with another PCR, and I'll start another case. So I'll be ready to go with at least one more case for the next meeting.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, back to me here. So first up, folks, I wanted to talk to you about the proposed administrator allegation that's on the agenda today here. This is a relatively straightforward allegation, although the narrative is kind of long. But the bottom line is that an appraiser entered into a final consent order with the board. That final consent order contained certain stipulated settlement terms, return the order by a certain date, pay a civil penalty of X amount by a certain date, and complete some classes. And then the last piece of that, the stipulated settlement, was that the appraiser was to participate in a USPAP audit process or a compliance audit process to basically verify that the classes and things address the issues that were found during the case investigation. During the course of the audit process, well, first I should say that the appraiser met all of the terms of that settlement agreement, allegedly, except for the audit process. There were some extenuating circumstances with regard to timing of the audits. There was a medical situation with the appraiser. We had to stay the audit process for a while until they were healed and ready to proceed stuff. That process did occur. But in the audit process, part of the agreed settlement terms was that the appraiser was to complete no less than 6 audits in 18 months, and that time frame was extended because of the medical issues. And of those 6 audits, the appraiser would be required to pass a total of 3, or at least 3, in order to have successfully completed the audit process. Well, we've completed 4 audits. And as you can see by the narrative in this administrator allegation, the appraiser has allegedly not passed any of the audits and essentially has failed to take corrective actions as a result of the audit results and conferences that we've had with the appraiser with the intent to correct the issues that we were seeing so that we were protecting the public and that the appraiser could move down the road with better knowledge and USPAP compliance. Well, essentially, none of the things that needed to happen during the audit, as far as passing the audit, happened. So as a result, that final consent order that was the source of these audits stipulated that if the appraiser didn't meet the terms, certain other terms would apply. And essentially, that's what's before you folks today, is to determine whether or not we need to open an allegation report for investigating the allegations that the appraiser did not successfully complete the audit. And go down that road. Are there any questions about this proposed administrator allegation?
Seems like you given the appraiser a lot of latitude and a lot of time, and it doesn't sound like the way this is explained, they're real interested in fixing that. So
yeah. It's unfortunate, but that's, when the terms of a consent order are not met, that essentially was the appraiser's chance to address the issues without the most serious potential disciplinary action.
Sure. Looks like you're giving them a lot.
The fact that didn't happen means that those terms apply, as well as some other terms. We did, and Dan in particular spent a lot of time with this individual, really attempting to help and teach and talk through what was it that was insufficient or deficient in the appraisal and the work files. And it was, we didn't get real far is I guess the best way to put it in terms of progress or changes to the appraiser's process. So those are all allegations at this point. That's why we're opening this, or why I'm proposing this administrator allegation, so that we can investigate and present you folks with a compliance report that shows what we found, and then you can all at the next meeting hopefully vote and make a determination on what the board should be doing with this issue. So beyond that, I guess unless there's other questions, we'd be looking for a motion to open the administrator allegation.
Chad, I just have one small question. It's just sort of out of curiosity. How long has this person been licensed?
A relatively long time. I think their license number is on the low side of the number system. I don't have that in particular right here in front.
Yeah, just ballparking. Yeah, just a ballpark.
Well, if I had to guess, if I had to guess, I'd say at least as long as I have. At least 2 decades, maybe more like 3 or 4.
Okay.
So they're not new to the appraisal space. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I motion that we go ahead and open that allegation.
Second.
All right, Jeff with the motion, Annie with the second. Stephanie, let's do a roll call vote for approval.
Okay. Jeff?
Yes.
Lori?
Yes.
And Annie?
Yes.
All right, motion passes, and we'll go ahead and open that administrator allegation here as soon as the meeting ends. Next up today, the case that I have for you folks is 24-2629. Now, essentially, what I presented to you folks here is the multi-case evaluation. The case that we've been looking at that the appraiser has been notified of is case number 24-2629. In between the time that case was opened and I think the end of January sometime, we received another couple of allegations about this appraiser, about the same issue. The case that we're talking about today was received from the homeowner. Cases 2 and 3 were received from, I believe, the appraisal management company that engaged the appraiser, as well as the quality control department for the lender. All 3 allegations address the same issue. So rather than opening 3 cases and, that cumbersome process, essentially what happened was, when we notified the appraiser that this case 24-2629 had been opened, the appraiser sent a request back that in light of certain circumstances they're dealing with, they would like to voluntarily surrender their credential in lieu of proceeding with the investigation. And that's something that the board has done many times in the past. Again, this was entirely of their volition. They contacted me. In fact, I think their written response that they submitted to the board alluded to that fact. And then subsequent to that, they reached out to me directly and requested that they be allowed specifically to voluntarily surrender. They're not going to be able to physically continue in the appraisal profession just because of some underlying issues that they're having medically and otherwise. So essentially what's before you folks today is just a basic summary case background for this 24-2629 and a summary of what the appraiser is requesting. Based on what I'm seeing here, it does make, and in light of the caseload that the board has, it does appear that the appraiser acknowledged the allegations that occurred. So there's very little investigation that needs to happen related to whether or not something occurred. However, the bottom line is for expediency. What I'm recommending here is that case 24-2629 be closed on the condition that the appraiser, well, actually, it would be all 3 cases that are referenced. 24-2629, which the appraiser has been notified of. There's another case, 25-2635 and 25-2636 came in between the notice of the first case and the end of January. rather than pile on to the appraiser because they're having some anxiety issues, I felt it more appropriate if we're going to close cases, why harangue this person over and over again and cause them additional anxiety and stress for an issue that we could really essentially address with this one action. So the two 2025 cases, the appraiser is not even aware of yet, but pending today's meeting, what will happen is that I will work to negotiate a settlement agreement. And at that point, I can notify the appraiser that we received cases, but pending this outcome, we won't be pursuing those, assuming that this appraiser follows through on their request to voluntarily surrender, if that makes sense.
So what needs to be done, Chad? Do we need to vote on this?
I would say a motion, essentially at this point, it's just a motion to close case 24-2629 without further investigation on the condition that the appraiser in question, the respondent appraiser, follow through on their request to voluntarily surrender their license. So it'd be
rather than restating that, can I just say so moved?
You can, and you know what? Maybe the language would be better, and this is what I'll probably put in the agreement, that the investigation of these cases be stayed on the condition that the appraiser enters into that stipulated agreement and follows through with their request to surrender the license. You can say so moved for that if you'd like.
So moved.
And can we still have discussion just for a second?
Oh, sure.
Or are we
yeah.
done?
But, well, okay, we've got a motion on the table. We can discuss it before you vote. Yeah.
Okay, so I understand. I've read through the stuff. The problem I'm seeing is a twofold thing, Chad. But I know this person is also holds a license in Washington, so surrendering here that takes care of Oregon. Sure, I understand that. But one of the bigger things I saw is that there is maybe somebody that's not even a trainee, but has finished classes that did the inspection on this particular case. Is there something that we're going to have recorded about this particular person in case they try and become licensed in the state of Oregon?
Well, they're not under our regulatory authority, Jeff. They're not. They have done nothing wrong. Okay. Anybody can inspect property and provide real property appraisal assistance. It's the appraiser's obligation to clearly state what happened in the report and what didn't. So I didn't go any further into finding out the identity of the individual that showed up. I believe we have a first name, but essentially the issue at hand isn't related to the other person. If they were an assistant and they had failed to do something that they were obligated to do under USPAP or under our administrative rule, or if they had done something that affected the credibility of the appraisal, they could be held accountable as well as a registered assistant, are basically under our purview, our authority. But this person being just a private individual, like I could potentially, it would be a bad choice, but I could potentially ask my neighbor to help me go and appraise a house, or my plumber could go and help me measure a house. The issue at hand isn't if somebody helped, it's whether or not it was disclosed and whether or not that appraiser that signed the certification did so correctly and truthfully. So that would be the issue at hand. It's not necessarily that somebody was helping the appraiser that wasn't licensed. And as far as other states goes, voluntary surrendering, the other states get notice of that, and each state has the authority to approve or deny license renewals. I don't know what Washington's process or California's process or Idaho's process is. But that it's not like this is a get out of jail free card. The fact of the matter is that this shows up for other states to see. So if they have problems with that and they think that relates to whether or not they should issue a license, they can make those determinations in their own states.
Sure. Okay. I just
that makes
it's kind of quirky. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I understand. And if this had been a situation where I'll give you another hypothetical of what did not happen but could have, if we had an individual that showed up on a site that was purporting to be somebody that they were not, like Joe Blow is an appraiser. Joe Blow hires Mary Jane. Mary Jane shows up at the house and says that she's Joe Blow. That would be problematic. But being a non-appraiser and saying, hey, I am here to inspect a property on behalf of so-and-so, you've been truthful and transparent with the person that you're talking to, especially if you're not a licensed or registered individual, you're not obligated to any of our, and that's what gets sticky for the appraiser, right? If you send somebody out that's not obligated by USPAP and you're relying on their work and therefore potentially putting yourself at risk where they have none. But the issue being that if you were to show up and say that you're someone else, right, that would be misleading the person. That would be in direct violation of 674-100, which is our licensing statute. That's not what occurred here. It essentially seems like the appraiser had an issue, a last minute issue, whether it was health related or otherwise, was not able to do the inspection, and instead of rescheduling, chose to send someone else out there that they had performed the inspection, and then did not disclose that in the appraisal, and then further certify that the appraiser had in fact inspected the property. So all of this really falls back on the appraiser, unless the other individual was an assistant, and they are not, because this appraiser is state licensed. They're not able to have assistants, which is what I think caused the problem in the first place.
Right. All right.
Yeah.
It was just the other state. I didn't know if Washington allows it or not.
Gotcha.
Looks like they've been in this state for about a decade, so maybe Washington has some type of different rules.
Gotcha.
I don't know Washington's rules. I was just concerned more about JQ public for different
Not
states.
misleading the public, and yeah, absolutely, I understand. Yeah, and that was kind of where I started with things. I after when I was looking at it, that was my concern too, was that the homeowner was not made aware that this person was not the certified or the licensed signing appraiser. But it seems like that is basically the subject of the allegation, is that they identified themselves as who they actually were. This person that inspected the house was truthful about their identity. When the appraiser got when the homeowner got the appraisal report back, the name that was on the certification did not match the name of the individual that handed this person a card or identified themselves as, I'm here, so-and-so, and I'm here to inspect your house. That's what triggered the allegation. And then that, my guess is that the homeowner contacted their AMC, and that the AMC then contacted the lender, and that's how the snowball happens. So we now have 3 allegation reports on the same issue for one person, right? It's all 3 sides of this mortgage transaction have decided to file. So it's really one issue that we're looking at. And again, rather than opening case and notifying and causing more and more heartburn, there is a more efficient, maybe somewhat more empathetic way of dealing with this that still gets us to the same result of protecting the public without putting undue stress on anybody involved, really.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, I'm with you. You've addressed my concern. So
Okay. So we had a motion to open the administrator's allegation for this property, and let me just. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the last case. So I guess at this point we would be looking for the motion to stay investigation of these 3 cases: 24-2629, 25-2635, and 25-2636, on the condition that the respondent appraiser enters into a stipulated agreement specifying that they will surrender their Oregon State appraiser credential and that they will not apply to the board for a credential in the future.
I think somebody said moved, and do I second?
We do still need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. Stephanie, go ahead and give us a roll call vote for the motion.
All right, Jeff,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
and Annie.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. And I'll go ahead and get back with the appraiser and start working on that settlement so that the board can move forward here, hopefully at the next meeting.
Thank
Well,
you.
that is the caseload that I have for you folks today. Dan's done. I'm done. Other than that, is there any other business that the EOC wants to bring up? Oh, next meeting. I understand that a couple of you might be out of town the first part of March, and we are here at the last week of February. So, where do you all stand on date for a March enforcement committee meeting?
I'm free for whatever, Chad. Yeah.
Okay.
Annie, didn't you have an obligation in there somewhere?
What's that?
Oh, I was just asking Annie. I thought she said she had an. I'm out of town. I'm in Dallas the week of the 10th.
Okay.
I'm in Florida the 4th through the 11th, and then I have to go to Medford. So I'm not really available until the week of the 17th. I've got a lot of traveling coming up.
Well, so spacing EOCs out evenly here and giving Dan and Danny time to wrap up their current cases. Do we want to aim for the end of March? The same last week of March kind of a thing?
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. We could, that also actually falls on a 26th.
Hey, Chad, I was just thinking, as long as whatever you do, you'll be ready for the April board meeting, so that
Could
we can, vote and get those off the books. Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay, so we can either do, really at this point, it's either, and the end of March would probably give us a little more time to go back and forth with the respondents and settle things and all that, but we could do the last week of March on the 26th, or we could do the first week of April, which would be the 2nd. That would be the first Wednesday in April is the 2nd. I'm good either way, 26th or the 2nd, whatever works for you folks.
26 is best for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I would prefer the 26th. I have to travel again the second week of March.
Oh, gosh. I'm so sorry.
It gets old.
Yeah, I could imagine. Is that work with
okay,
you,
then?
Annie?
Yeah, I'm good on
Okay.
the 26th.
All right. Well, I will make a note and put that on the public meetings website here that the next EOC will be Wednesday, March 26th. Okay. Other than that, I have nothing else for you folks to discuss. So we'd be entertaining a motion to adjourn at this point.
I move to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn. Oh, I'll second.
Lori with the motion, Jeff with the second. Stephanie, let's go ahead and do a roll call to approve the motion.
All right, Jeff,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
and Annie.
All right, that's unanimous, and the motion carries. The time now is 9:30 a.m., folks, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.
Chad, can I give you a call